This video is 10 signs you were being parentified as a child. All right, first take. Number one, you have child therapists. All right, so this one is going into pretty much if you have parents that ever emotionally dumped on you, overly shared what was going on in their life, and more so to traumatize you, not to explain how the world works. So there is a big difference. But being a child therapist, you notice that you were the one consoling, you were the one trying to make your parent feel better, you were protecting them, very protective. It might not have just been your parents, it might have been your siblings too, but in a very negative way, not in a matured big brother, big sister type of way. You definitely feel like it took a toll on you. So, number one, child therapist. Another thing that came with being a child therapist, you definitely felt like you were giving support, but you definitely wasn't giving it back. Your parents definitely made your life and their life all about them. Didn't really seem like it was gonna circle around back to you. So yeah, you learned that you couldn't really trust your parents with a lot of your emotions. So it kind of made you cold, but yeah, child therapist. Number two, you grew up too fast. Number two, you grew up too fast. All right, Zeus, you all in my way. So with this one, pretty much it seemed like you weren't allowed to be a child, right? You did a lot of things for a lot of people. You helped out your siblings, you helped out your parents. You did a lot of adult things, right, as a young child. If I could find a line by Soul, he has a song with Mac Miller, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot who else is in that song, but he had a pretty much a quote, and he was just like, I did everything I wanted to do in my life by the age of 25. Like, with this, it's just, it can lead you down a dark path, right? And what I mean by that is you can end up doing things that, like I said, adults would do, too young. And then by the time you get actual adult age, it's like, I already been through a lot of those situations. So it tends to give off this demeanor like you're more mature. But if you haven't healed from a lot of things, it's like false maturity just because you think you're grown. So growing up too fast, like I said, it can be emotional and physical, right? Helping out with bills, helping out with kids, the whole helping out with the kids things, it can lead the sibling to not even want to have kids because they did so much work for their parents. It seems like they were the parent more than parentification. So when you grow up too fast, this is one thing that I'm trying to make sure that because I have kids, because my daughter will have siblings, I make sure not to put too much on her. I let her know that I may ask you to do something. That does not mean it's continuous. That does not mean you get to waste an hour helping your baby sister get dressed or do something. Because she's 4, she can do a lot of things by herself. So I don't want you to feel like you're taking a parental task and internalizing it. So then it's like, oh, I couldn't get this done because I was doing X, Y, and Z. But those weren't your duties. So that's one thing that I'm making sure that I focus on with my child. But growing up too fast, it can definitely be detrimental to your emotional growth, your mental growth, and sometimes your physical pockets. Number two. All right, number three, you suffer mentally. So number three, people who have been parentified, some tend to suffer mentally. They end up actually developing some type of disorder. They end up, like I said, being sometimes very immature individuals that need some kind of counseling or need some kind of therapy, need some fine tuning. But yeah, with number three, it's more so you end up having a disorder of some sort. It might be an eating disorder, might be mental, therefore you need some type of therapy. Never gonna say you need medication, but therapy is always gonna be needed. the complex that comes with being parentified, that I'm saying, it can take a while to get over and develop the right, I would say the right foundation needed. You know what I mean? To healthily think as a sibling nowadays, and even back then. So number 3 is real light, but yeah, you suffer mentally. All right, number 4. We're going into code. All right, number 4, codependency. What can we say about this one? You'll end up being a people pleaser. You'll end up giving too much. You'll end up just giving your energy away. And in turn, you'll see this have a really, really big negative effect on your romantic relationships, your friendships, your boundary setting. It can go on and on. All right, so I got some notes. I just want to make sure I'm staying on point. Yeah, you'll be an enabler, right? Always trying to do something for others. You may never have a full cup. So the saying that I normally say with this is like, I'm done giving until my cup is overflowing. I only give from my overflow cup, right? You're not supposed to give when your cup is half empty, right? Or if you think of it half full, still not the point. You as an adult have to be able to self-sustain yourself. You have to be able to self-sustain. You have to sustain yourself, and then after you sustain yourself, then others follow. This is a really big deal because when you're growing up and you have siblings or you have parents that make you feel like you have to pitch in, make you feel like you... Now, as a man, I know it's different. If you're sleeping on your mom's couch, you want to slide her some rent. Understood. But with this is the parents that make you feel like everything that they have going on is all on you also. A lot of that comes with being with codependency too, because then you'll grow up feeling like you always have to, oh, here goes my whole check, or here goes my whole this, and it can spill into your relationships from when you were a child and having to deal with that kind of situation with your parents, or it might have been your grandma or your auntie. You can end up over giving, right? So what I say, people pleasing, start doing some bullet points for y'all. Enabling others. And the last one, not taught. I said this one, not taught proper boundaries. Get down a little bit. Not taught proper boundaries. All right, codependency. I ain't gonna lie, I still be nervous doing this video. This is wild. Okay, I don't want to put that down. But we're gonna put number 5 down here. Number 5, you are a people reader. All right. That looks kind of ugly. So, people readers. Self-explanatory, so I don't really think I'm gonna have to put any bullet points for that one. But being a people reader, you grew up having to read your parents. I have tons of videos where I talk about my mom not having to speak a word, but I can read her mind, I can feel her feelings, I can read them, read the room. So this is what this is. You're a people pleaser, you're a people reader, you can read rooms easy. You read rooms extremely easy, right? So then go into a room, notice it's not right, typically we want to leave. That's what we're those type of people. I'll sense something is off the moment I step in, moment somebody feels some type of way. Now it's like, all right, what's going on? All right, time to move around. People readers. All right, number 6, we have seek nurturing from others. So this one, as a man, you gotta make sure we don't fall into this. It's kind of a trap, right? It's okay to want to speak to the homies about certain stuff, but it's a lot of, as a man, there's a lot of things that other men don't want to hear about, they don't give a fuck about, right? They probably cried in silence about it. So when it comes to healing, a lot of the healing that needs to be done with seeking help and seeking this motherly or fatherly love from others is gonna go into a lot of self-work, right? You're not gonna find the help in a relationship. You're not gonna find that healing trying to be in a relationship when you notice that if you know that you still have some of these issues, right? sometimes this comes from doing too much at a young age and then wanting to give that load to somebody else. So like I said, a lot of these, they kind of go in order, right? So you can grow up too fast, then you become fast. Now you got something mentally wrong with you. Now you're codependent, right? You read people easily, but then you also attract a lot of the same energy of what you are, right? So that can fall back on you, right? Because they may feel like a good person, may seem like a good person, but a lot of trauma bonds, they're not meant for us to stay. They're meant for us to learn the lesson, right? So then next thing you know, you're seeking love, nurture, love. This could be the same thing from others in forms and ways that you don't need it, in forms and ways that you need healing first, right? I guess the last thing I just want to say about the seeking and nurturing in others, you just want to make sure that you heal, so then you're giving yourself the right love, and then you can work on not accepting all the painful stuff that you don't have to. You'll get to a point in your life where the things that you accept, they will change. Work on doing that from a younger age and sticking with it, then trying to change it, because just depending on who you are, some souls are not going to take you seriously. Okay, another one is hard to be. All right, number 7 is hard for you to be vulnerable. Like I said, this is going to take a lot of healing. If you have, as a man, if you have men in your life that you can talk to, I had my pastor, I had coaches that let me vent, and I'll just kind of, I'll tweak my dialogue so then they can further understand what I really mean when I'm expressing myself to them. But again, like I said, I had men, and then I also had my father. So when it comes to being vulnerable, I don't feel like I didn't have a place to go express myself and get my thoughts together. I feel like I had that. So if you don't, you really need to get into a group, or you really need to find another man, or find an uncle or somebody that you can, that has things together, in your opinion, because you'll realize a lot of people, they hold a lot of trauma in their life, and it starts seeping out in weird ways. So you just want to make sure the people that you're trying to get understanding from, that they have understanding, right? Then this becomes a lot more easier. I can't really speak for women. If you have your father, if you have a healed father, a healed mother, then this becomes easier. But clearly, this is on our steps. It wasn't necessarily given to you. So a lot of healing. If you could find a good therapist, that'll probably do you some justice. But a lot of this will be spent doing alone. You can do inner child healing. You can do shadow work healing. There's a lot of books on that. There's a lot of workbooks on that. I'm actually working on one. It's taking me a little bit longer. But number 7, it's hard for you to be vulnerable. I'll say a big one with hard to being vulnerable. The massive one is easy to isolate yourself. That's a really big one for me. That's why I wrote it down. But when it's hard to be vulnerable, a lot of us tend to want to stay to ourselves, talk to ourselves. I laugh about it. I have about 5-6 different personalities that I kind of cycle through. They're all working on something else. So I kind of be having to get them together. But a lot of that tends to come from growing in a household where, again, you couldn't trust your parents with your feelings. You noticed you couldn't really trust anybody with your feelings. Forced you to kind of go within. And for me, that led me doing a lot more talking to myself. So, yes. All right, we're already on number 8. So number 8, real quick, could be self-blame. A lot of stuff that happened with your parents. You may have felt like you had something to do with it. It wasn't explained to you in a child way that you can understand, or a lot was exposed to you. So because no parent or no soul did any explaining because they thought you were too young, you self-internalized, and you ended up doing a lot of self-blame. This can actually lead into an adult that says sorry for no reason, right? Again, this can lead to not having the right foundation to set proper boundaries. But yeah, a lot of that is taught at a young age when There's a lot of things going on. You don't have answers and nothing is being explained to you. So a lot of things that I do as a parent is with my child, she might see something, I'll break it down and explain it to her and ask, does she understand? And then if she understands, I ask her to give me the story regurgitated but in her own words. Or I'll ask her to give me an example so then she can understand that the situation in a different light, and then I'll give her all the points of views. So, what's up, Blaine? Number 8. Okay, number 9 is just kind of piggybacking off of the growing up too fast, but you feel like you have to explore the world to find who you are. So I tie this one into a couple things. This can be, you have a massive family, not even massive, but you have a couple siblings maybe. And in my opinion, from what I've noticed, it might be your parents don't have a direction yet. They don't even have a direction. They're still struggling with it. They're still trying to find themselves. So then when you have a bunch of siblings and then you have parents that don't know who they are, and you mix all of that together, then you have a child that might even be the oldest child. They're figuring out things differently from everybody else. They're finding out things, you can kind of consider them the black sheep, but they have to go explore the world to find who they are. And it's not a bad thing, but there can be bad things that can occur, or I guess bad habits that can form because you're searching for who you are, right? So you might end up getting into some things that you thought you were into that later on you found out that you weren't into, and you might be, just depending on who you are, you might see some stuff and you might be like, I'm not trying that, but I'll try this. So this depends on, like, or I guess an example for me was, I never thought I'd start smoking, but the only reason why I started was because I was on like 7-8 different medications, and I didn't want to take the medication anymore, so I just decided to roll a blunt. No big deal, but that's just a quick example. But when I found out who I was like, okay, I kind of know who I am, don't need it. But then, like I said, if I wouldn't have started, it's still about finding who you are, right? So I'm still growing, I'm still developing, I'm still finding new things about myself that I learn every single day, if not week, depending on how much work that I do. But finding out who you are, and it may take some time, but then that's why they say that you're not the same person, or you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be the same person you are at 17, 18, 19, 20, at 30, 31, 35. You should not be the same person. And if you are, that means you did no growing. All right, last sign you're parentified as a child would be number 10. You deal with perfectionism. All right, you deal with perfectionism. You honestly felt like, because of how your parents spoke to you, you may have felt like you lacked confidence, right? You lack confidence, right? And that comes from, like I said, it comes from your parents not instilling it in you, talking to you like you meant something to them. It also can come from parents not speaking, right? Not necessarily they were talking to you bad, but they weren't talking to you at all. They weren't saying how proud they were of you. You may come home with prizes, ribbons, and other things, and they just didn't really show any true interest because they were too focused on their own life, right? So it led to perfectionism, wanting to prove people wrong. The boxer that, I forgot his name because I really don't watch boxing like that, but my dad does. He has a story of his mom talking to him crazy, and it led to him being a tough individual. But in my opinion, that definitely led to some trauma. But now I'm pretty sure he's learning how to give his sons a different kind of love than his mother or his father was able to give him. So he dealt with perfectionism, and now he's a world champion. So like I said, in some ways it can be good, but on a psyche, on a mental level, a lot of these things can end up being a negative, and as a man, we have to grow out of them, and it takes us some time, right? So that's number 10, 10 signs of how 10 signs you were parentified as a child, okay? So real quick, how do we fix these? Acknowledgement. That's number one. How to fix knowledge, right? Acknowledging what's going on in your life, right? Write it out. You can write a letter, you can mail a letter, you can burn a letter. Get the emotions from a childlike state. Write it down, put it in a letter, and then work on rebuilding the foundation that some of these are set on. So then you can start building more healthy building blocks for relationships, you know, for a healthier self, so you can become a whole new you. Because once you eliminate a lot of this, now you're at peace. Because some of these things can really linger, right? I know and you know, some of these things can linger. If you like what was heard in this video, go ahead and give me a like, leave a comment, send this to somebody that might need it. Thank you for watching, and until next time.